Welcome back to my Legends Expanded Universe chronological timeline rating, where I go through the expanded universe according to my personal chronological timeline order and rank each and every individual piece of media on a 10-point scale. Today I have a short story from the Tales of the Jedi Companion that is called Chamma. This is the name of the character, and others have given it a more elaborate title and called it The Tale of Chamma. This was written by George R. Strayton and was published in 1996. I put it in the timeline around circa 4,298 BBY. I'm going to kind of skim over the story here, but there's a lot of nuance to this story, nonetheless, even though I'm going to talk a little more briefly regarding the plot than kind of normal. In this story, we are introduced to a Jedi named Chamma, and Chamma, over the course of the story, he falls to the dark side, right, and He has been corrupted and he has fallen. But he is brought back to the light side by another Jedi, and he gets a happy ending, redeemed, and he gets to stay on and be a teacher for further generations of Jedi. He even teaches eventually Andir Sunrider, who is from the Tales of the Jedi comics. This is a super interesting story. And SWTOR provides the species of Chamma as being Devaronian, which is even more interesting because the Devaronians are, the red horn species, somewhat devious, so it's kind of interesting that one of them was a Jedi. And can you imagine a dark Jedi Devaronian? That would be terrifying. But anyways, this is very interesting, as I believe this is the first time in recorded Star Wars stories that a Jedi has gone Sith and then been redeemed back to the Jedi. I could be wrong, but I believe this is the first time we have come across that concept, which is super interesting, and it's a really good story. My one complaint would be it feels fairly generic for Star Wars stories. Jedi falls to Sith, other Jedi takes pity on him, goes to him, redeems him. It's good for what it is. It's a little generic overall as a story, like I just said, but overall this is a fairly interesting story. And I don't recall Chamma appearing in the Tales of the Jedi comics, so it's really interesting that the Tales of the Jedi Companion would write a whole short story about a character that didn't appear in that. That's really the beauty of the expanded universe, making a source book for a comic, expanding on one of the characters who was barely in the comic, mentioning that he had a Jedi Master, and then writing a whole story about that Jedi Master. It's the beauty of the EU there, at least in my opinion. That being said, I still think this story is a little weaker for the Tales of the Jedi Companion stories. I really liked it on my first read, but reading it again, I just wasn't sure about it, because I've read this 3 times in preparation for this review, and I'm still not exactly sure, where I stand on it exactly, but I'm thinking maybe a little bit on the lower side for this one. Although I really enjoyed it the first time and thought it was one of the better ones, on rereading it I was like, okay, this is a fairly formulaic story. That's why I didn't waste time with all the plot details when I realized I could just summarize this up in a couple sentences. So, that being said, I would say Chamma gets a solid 3 out of 10, with room to go to 4. But, I don't know, I was kind of conflicted with this one. However, if you want this story read for you so that you can make your mind up for yourself, go check out Marcel Ryan, the Revanchist's reading of this story. He reads the story in its entirety in an impeccably beautiful Canadian voice. Well, I guess he doesn't sound Canadian. He sounds American. But he reads this in a beautiful, beautiful narration voice with accents in there for the Jedi who redeems Chamma. And it's just a really enjoyable experience to listen to it. It's very professionally done, and he reads the story in its entirety. So if you're curious about the story, click the link in the description of this video, as there will be a link that will take you to the exact reading of this story in its entirety. every single sentence, every single word enunciated beautifully. And then you can come back here and tell me what you thought of this story. Did you like it about as much as me? Were you conflicted? Did you like it more than me? Is it formulaic? Is it an interesting story? Let me know. Let me know what you thought.